Hello everyone. So in this video, I'm going to test out something that's relatively new to Blender, and that is the extrude manifold feature or operator. So normal extrude, you do this, and then the adjacent faces are the face next to it. We extrude that, and use this. Of course, normally doesn't merge them, and you create another face on this edge here being extruded, but with Alt E for the extrude menu, by the way. And if we use extrude non-manifold, it's basically just um, merge those faces. So for example, if I extrude this and if I extrude this, so you can see that it doesn't create those double faces. But of course, the topology, the edges are being moved around as well, so this creates an income, but it's not really a problem. We can just use quad slice for that. The flow also has it. I don't know if I have already updated creative flow, but I will be soon. There's a new direction parameter setting for that, and that is XYZ. And tangent can only operate on faces that have the same plane, that are in the same plane. So for example, this face is here, but if we select this, doesn't the direction coming, the vertex cut coming from these faces will not work on this face here. And it's the same with view. View basically cuts from the uh, view direction of the viewport. But XYZ cuts on the literal X, Y, and Z axis. So we can select faces of different orientation and still end up with something correct. Or the cuts are correct. So we get those squads. So in this video, I'm going to try out and basically build something using that extrude manifold. We're going to draw a profile of a building. Then from that face of that shape, from the shape of that face, I'm going to draw lines using the knife, and then we're going to extrude that to create the shape of the building. Okay, so plane, F9, and set this to view. If you're not familiar with the disappearing menu that you can bring back using the F9 hotkey, I'm going to set a link in the description to let you familiarize uh, of such behavior that is in Blender. This is Blender internal, and it doesn't just occur in some of the add-ons. This is actually uh, Blender internal behavior. You cannot change this. Unless the devs change it, then it will change for the other add-ons as well. Okay, so view. I'm going to set the apply the rotation and scale because apparently this realigns the object but does not apply the transform. Okay, so we're going to draw our building shape here. If you're not too familiar with the draw functionality of creative flow, you can just use the knife. Then the last point, I'm pressing shift to for the cut to snap into 45-degree angles. And for the last point, to snap to the first point, I'm going to press, while pressing shift, I'm going to press alt as well. And then click. So the stripe the striped line indicates the last point. Okay, so press space to enter and delete the outer faces. So we're basically have this. Okay, using the knife, you can also constrain it to angle using A, and then since we're using 45 degrees while in this mode, after constraining it to the angle or an angle, just press the your desired angle for the snapping. So in my case, 45 degrees. There we go. Then you can draw your lines. And to draw a new line, you can just press right click on the mouse and draw another line. Okay. The problem is I don't know the backspace or the way to delete the previous line. So E, right click. Is it right click? Yeah, right click to create a new line. Okay. Okay. Going to extrude this using the extrude manifold. So when using the menu, if you're not going to use the mouse, there's another shortcut for this. One I think is extrude faces. Yeah, Alt E4 will be so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and Alt E4. So that will be the shortcut. And you can also use the underlined letters. So Alt E extrude manifold. The underlined letter for me is M. You can also use that M. Okay. So I'm just gonna use 4 because it's quicker. And the 4 button is actually closer to my hand. Okay. So let's do this. Alt E4. Shift R. Oop. Alt E4. Shift R is to repeat. Unfortunately, the height did not repeat. Alt E4. This is our building. It's kind of thinnish. But we're gonna mirror it with the y-axis afterwards. Okay. The extrude manifold. Extrude manifold. There you go. And I'm going to mirror it in the y-axis. Make it fatter. So we have a base for our building, and um, I think I'm just going to make this model this in symmetry. But first, select everything. Think. Okay. So the only thing that's really missing from quad slice is to avoid those excess cuts. But for now, it's probably unavoidable. So So distance is more like um, remove doubles, but it works for edges. So you can see that higher numbers creates less edges or faces, but those edges are being merged on their close neighbors. So something like 0.01. We still have this twists here. So coin slice 0.025, 0.01, 0.005. There we go. So now we have an all quad mesh that we can use the randomization, because the randomization only works for uh, quads and tries and not ingots. Okay, so let's try out the. So I'm deleting the lower part of the building because we don't need that. Let's try out some shapes with random panels and probably set this to split. And we have depth. So I'm still finishing up the revamp of the UI, and I will update random flow after that. Also, I have set the default visibility of the usage info button back to true or on again. And here I've added additional buttons that will let you link automatically on the online documentation and the YouTube playlist. And then the information about the disappearing menu, which of course the newcomers for in Blender doesn't know about. Okay. So, this link is also in the this information is also in the online documentation in the other information menu. Okay, cancel. Because some people might be missing the link on the product page, particularly if you did not get the add-on from Random Flower Blender Market. Uh, that is because the only legit store is from Gumroad or Blender Market. If you get it from other places, then I'm not getting any of this money. It's not going to go to support the add-on, and its further development is going to go whoever made that site. Well, we're not gonna go too much on the detail, just big shapes to break up the building, and then we're going to use Scribble Bake for the additional detail. Okay, let's just play around with the. I'm also revamping the UI for the seed values. Yeah, it will be much easier to see it by section, so you can see panel seed here, and in the in the extrude or offset, um, we have the dip set here instead of being here. And now you can just go to each section, and the final seed is much easier to the seed value, the parameters is much easier to uh, pinpoint, being under the each being under its particular section. Okay, let's go with the few notches, like 5 notches. You can only truly see the notch effect for in higher subdivision, but I think we're good to go. I think this is good. And let me just save this. And also, you might notice that the random shading has been removed as well, and it's now a separate. In the update, it will be a separate. Where is it? Operator, random shade in the shading menu, and this mimics the behavior of the random shading that will be found in the random flow geonode edition. So this is the copy of that It's not using GeoNode in this version. This is using Python script, but it will be a copy of that behavior. So basically, it's simplified. You have the limit, island, or per final islands or face groups, or per object if you have multiple objects selected. The sharpness, default value 30 degrees most works most of the time, so I'm not really touching that much. Distribution means that 0 is like all the faces are flat, and 100% all the faces are. In this case, all the face islands are 100% smooth. So let's go for something like 50%, and then you can uh, play around with the Z value to randomize the result. So it's something like 30, and this gives you much more control than the previous iteration of the feature. Okay, so next up is the since I'm forgetting to UV the the source mesh. Don't forget to UV the source mesh because that will um, transfer over to the randomized mesh. So this lets you create. I use the UV projection for the textures on the randomized objects. But in this case, since I forgot it, I'm just going to use the number one hotkey operator in Blender, which is the straight UV. This is hackish, so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Okay. This time it worked, so everything is flat, and this is good for our texture. Everything will be aligned to the faces. Should I pack islands? I should pack. Oops, why did maybe not? Okay, so let's go to shader. Let's go to shader and then add the shader that comes with random flow. Boom. And then selecting this. This is our only randomized mesh. So I'm not going to use the assign material. This is designed for multiple objects. So this object is just a single object. So I'm just gonna use our flow metal. These two are used the soft and the hard are using textures, but I'm going to create a texture just for this using Dribble Bake. So let's start with this. And also create a random vertex color for each final island that will serve as a base color to uh, basically avoid having a flat color or all over the object. Something a base diffuse that we can multiply our grunge texture on. Okay, so just saturated value, add the saturated values or gradations of black and white using the saturation value 3 and randomize tips. Set the limit to island and randomize the value, just the value. Okay, and then add the vertex color that was created using the random vertex color operator and attach it here as our base diffuse, and then we can see our that was already good lighting. Okay, I'm going to fix this. The textures are too big. Scratches, so 30 edge mask, 0.05, and noise is another 40. Cavity mask is too big. Reduce the threshold. Thick dirt also too big, something like 5, and then threshold. Okay, this one here. Okay, so this is our base. with just the grunge texture and the or our base shader and just the basic color being provided by the particle. Okay, now let's create a plane. So Dribble Bake is basically a fast baker. This is not designed for 3D, rather 2D, and it's designed to have the primitive plane as your working base. And this is basically designed to let you use random flow and combine this, create a bunch of texture maps, gribbles. Uh, texture map details from the randomized gribbles. So for this iteration, we're going to use displacement, diffuse, big color pass. Let's see, displacement, normal, AO, and displacement. I'm just going to use the displacement as color. Okay. Random panels, and also use symmetry. So X, Y. I'm just going to use symmetry. I'm going to introduce some random topology to influence the randomization. Inside and increase the cuts. Be sure that you don't use. Make sure that you don't use zero thickness because there will be no normal details from this. Suppose something like 0.02, 0.002. Yeah, 0.002. Okay. Now the displacement will consider the origin point, this orange dot here, as the zero plane to figure out the heights of these faces here. So, for example, if we use this plane as our in Dribble Bake as our bake origin, then it will use that as the origin of that object as the as 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 the zero starting point, and then going up, the zero being black, pure black, and then going up, it gets wider as the faces becomes higher. Okay, and that determines the height map information. That is with origin point, and you have lowest geometry. If you have something protruding on the other side and you want this to be zero, then for that object you have to use the lowest geometry, and then you have to the selected vertices. The average position of the selected vertices to be the zero base for the displacement. Okay, so we're just gonna play around with the look of this randomized mesh. Something like 15. We need some details for the building. And what else? Margin thickness. You can try for something big like this. Or something in the middle, 0.003. Ciliary in the distance in the clip center. Let's just clip those middle part. There we go. And affect the I think the depth is too much, so let's set it to press shift and then slide. You can make it increment a little slower. Okay, let's do this. And let's go to image I. Press I when you show this menu. And then selecting the two objects. Let's check normal A1 displacement, bake origin. This shows you the selected object, so plane 001. Bake to last images so we don't clutter the image list with the last big images here, and you can name the. It is going to use a default name value if you have this a blank. If you leave it blank, for the size, I'm just going to use 1024 by 1024 to make it faster. But uh, you can have a higher resolution like 2048 or 4K. Just be aware that if you're using higher values like 4K and 8K, the baking will take longer. Okay, bake and hope this works. Probably the longest. Oh, that's the displacement. There's nothing. Origin points. Let's see. Rotation scale. There we go. If if it somehow shows black, you can just apply the scale and rotation sometimes. That fixes that. So we have bake AO, bake displacement. I will use this as color and then the bake normal. Okay. Now setting this aside and hiding it. Hiding it. Let's go to the shader and see it rendered. Control T. Make sure you have Node Wrangler on for the shortcut to work like this. And then set it to this. So this basically uses the change the normal effects in using multiple sources. So since this is our last bump or normal source, we're going to click it here and then use normal. Go to vector, use normal map, and then select our normal map and choose UV because we have UVs. And there we go. Now all we need is to play around with the scale. Okay, now we're going to use the displacement as color. And you can also use that as displacement for its original intention. But in this case, I think the normal map is already enough because in displacement you have to provide the necessary resolution or increase in topology or increase in the not topology, increase in the resolution for the displacement to actually work correctly. So make sure that they use the same mapping. So when I scale the normal, for example, everything will be scaled evenly. Multiply. So this is going to be this bake displacement, and I'm going to control this using color ramp because I think it's too dark. So we're just going to lighten it using the color ramp. So this the effect. It's too much. Something like 0.5. Is it even working? Let's see. It's not. Oh, it's not working. Yes, it is. Okay, now the ambient occlusion. Actually, we already have ambient occlusion in the geometry, so we don't need to use the ambient occlusion mode. Okay, displacement. Okay, now we have our building. Now you can play around with location, rotation, and scale. Yeah, there we go. And then there you go. So just to make it more obvious. Okay, now we need the lights here, and go to emission and just increase this to something like 20 to turn on the lights. And when you're new to the using the lights UV, all you have to do is increase the factor to something like 1. Not the offset. There you go. Decrease. So the larger square, that is the outer scale parameter. And the smaller square inside those larger square is the inner scale. See? And so basically the factor is controls how much of them are being shown. So something like 0.5 here, and then in factor for the inner scale is something like 0.05. We can increase that. So 0.06, not too much. And then the offset basically is the seed parameter, or the inner scale and the outer scale. Okay, let's actually minimize the effect of the smooth this out. Something like 0.5 and make this less saturated. Copy this, Control C while hovering on the um, color step, not color step, color bar. Control C and then Control V on another color bar. There you go. And all we have to do is play around with the lights, get a much better ambiance for our model. There we go. And we're gonna fix the lights. I don't like this two hanging out together. They're like, it's destiny. In the randomness of and the this randomness of destiny, they found each other. Okay, now we have our building. Let's see. This is the yeah, probably 2025 for the grants. The building looks too dirty with it, like something like 0.2. There we go. So the power of the original random flow versus the GNOD edition will be that you can manipulate or edit the result of the randomization, whereas with and also you can use this to create a printable version of the mesh, whereas with the GNOD edition you cannot touch the randomization without applying the modifiers, and also the resulting mesh will be a bit chaotic. But there's a way to do actually, but there's also a way to achieve a printable result from the GNOD edition. I think there you go. You have your building. And also, if you are going to, if you're planning on using limited dissolve to basically make this lighter, be sure that you use or you UV this, or you have used straight UV operator on this before actually making it into a bunch of bean guns, because this also doesn't work with in guns. It only works with quads. So yeah, don't forget that. Okay, so should we try displacement before ending this video? Yes, we can. The subdivision modifier using control 1 and set it to simple. And toggle off optimal display. So when we press, when we go to wireframe, we can see the effect of the subdivision, the increasing wireframe. Whereas if you have optimal display on, you can see that. So it just lets you view the increase in resolution. Okay, displacement. Go to material, and in settings, set this to displacement only, and go to vector, and then displacement, and then use displacement here, attach it to the height, and then attach this to the displacement input of the material output node. Okay, it's going to set this to 0. This just means that the set the mid level to 0. If, okay, just increase this, decrease it, and use subtle values. Okay, there you go. Now you have the displaced information from the displacement map. So use this if you want to render this building much closer in the camera. Okay, so it gives you more uh, fidelity or details of the mesh. But when you're rendering it farther away, you can disable you can just cut the displacement off, and you have a lighter version of the mesh using just the normal map. But much closer, if you want more details, if you want to break apart the smoothness of the surface, then you can just use displacement for that. Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna show. I just did this video in order to show you that complete workflow on how to create these things and actually come up with something workable. So for those who are not getting any result, you can just experiment with any good result. You can experiment with the planes first, and then create a bunch of random topology and practice with this before actually using it on an actual project, and not getting frustrated because you're not getting any good results. Because this also ties in with your skills in seeing good shapes. So you just have to be patient. We're dealing with randomization. So my result could be different from yours, but if you follow the same workflow that I am using, then there's no cost for you to actually get something bad all the time. Okay, so there's a video for that as well. I think it's part of the basics. It's not that old. If you sort the playlist on the newest, you can find the title with that lesson or tutorial. Okay, so that is it for this video, and I hope you learned something new. Subscribe and hit notify. If you have any questions, use the comments or the links in the description. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support, and have a nice day.